Hey everybody, meteorologist Brad Petovich here with SkiSoutheast.com. It's been a warm middle of the week again, but just like last week, we're seeing cooler weather moving in for the weekend and some natural snow. Maybe not as much as we had for the big MLK weekend, but still pretty decent look at the weekend. So let's get right to the forecast here because obviously we had some rain today, but that front's moving through. And don't be surprised if by tomorrow morning, Friday morning, as I record this on Thursday night, that we start to see some northwest flow, especially for the resorts in West Virginia and Western Maryland. It's kind of a westerly flow. It's not a perfect setup, so it's going to be a short duration one. But I'm not going to be surprised to see snow linger for a while on Friday, which will be a nice little setup for the weekend because it's cold enough to make snow going into Saturday morning. Now Saturday will be chilly. Temperatures kind of hover near average. Some snowmaking opportunities early for Saturday morning. But as we go through Saturday night into Sunday, another somewhat warm and wet system starts with some rain, but it's going to transition to a wintry mix pretty quick by Sunday. And on the back side of this thing, we're going to see another surge of cold air and moisture. This looks to be a pretty good setup for some snow going late Sunday into Monday. In fact, that will linger for a while into Monday. So Monday might end up being a pretty decent day. Then we get in between another system. It's very similar. It starts wet, very wet, and then turns to snow on the backside. So you're kind of getting the idea. These systems are coming in every 2-3 days, and they're starting with some warm air ahead of it, but the cold air spilling in behind it, helping to build up some snow. And this one, in the middle of next week, might be something of a pattern changing storm because it does look like it stays more consistently cold behind that system, and we get a pretty long duration northwest flow event late next week into the following weekend. So this weekend coming up at the end of the month, actually not looking too bad. I think the last weekend in January might end up being very similar to MLK weekend because it's a pretty good setup with northwest flow, a couple surges, and cold air. So this last weekend is looking pretty good, and then we go further out and you start to see the cold air kind of establish itself. So what kind of snow are we talking about? Well, remember, this is not going to come all at once. We're going to get some waves of northwest flow snow. This first wave, Friday into Saturday, definitely highlights West Virginia up into western parts of Maryland. So you could see, places like Canaan, Timberline, Wisp, Snowshoe, even a Winter Place will end up with a little bit. Again, it's not overwhelming, but every little bit helps on the weekend. And then next week, the first system Sunday into Monday is kind of a wet system, so a little bit of everything. But look at the middle of next week, this Tuesday, Wednesday system. That's a more prolonged northwest flow event, and this sets up the Sunday, the 9 p.m. This is actually the last Sunday of the month. You could see some of these totals could be pretty nice going into the end of the month. I think especially West Virginia and Maryland, this looks like a pretty nice setup. So again, we'll look at the resorts. You could see most of the West Virginia resorts doing pretty well. Virginia resorts, not too bad. But West Virginia definitely went out. And I think down towards Beach, Sugar, and App, probably pretty decent. Cataloochee could end up with some snow. So all in all, the pattern's getting better. It's getting closer to what you would expect in the month of January and not the blowtorch we've had for a while. So here's a quick look at the forecast. I'll leave this up for a second. You can see I'm optimistic about some snowmaking. This certainly won't be 24-hour snowmaking opportunities, but some opportunities probably every day except for maybe Sunday. Sunday's kind of the one day I'm not real confident on. But look at the natural snow chances. Northwest flow Friday, then Sunday, Monday, and then the middle and end of next week. So pretty good setup. But before I leave you, I wanted to show you the long range pattern because, if people giving up on winter in general, I would not. I'm going to go through time, and this is the departure from average. So I'm looking just for cold air at this point. So we go through this weekend. It does get a little bit cooler, just closer to average. As we go into next week, there are signs that maybe more consistent cold that is now centered out west begins to try to shift to the east. So we get into next Friday. This is the 27th. Again, this isn't super cold, but it's much colder out west. But the fact that we actually have below average temperatures, more than likely, is a pretty good sign. And look that it kind of sticks around as we go into the final weekend of the month. Little warm up there, but then more cold air kind of reloads maybe going into February. So just like kind of a sneak peek into February. There's a lot of cold air building over western and central U.S. trying to head our way. So it's something. It's definitely, this is the 1st of February. So early February, again, this isn't like super cold, but it's definitely a pattern much different than what we just had here in the month of January. So a little bit of good news there that I think the pattern is going to flip. The end of the season is looking much better. And as I always say, in the Southeast, some of the best weather for skiing, the best snowing is always February, early March. It's just kind of the way, because the cold air is still there and the storm track lines up just better late in the season. So have a great weekend, and keep thinking about snow. I'm going to be heading out west to Heavenly and Sierra. I'm going to do some skiing on some atmospheric river snow. I will post plenty of videos, and of course I will post updates from out there as well for us here in the Southeast. But I'm going to sample some of that fresh snowpack, 300 inches of snow at Heavenly, which will be amazing. So heading out to Tahoe tomorrow, and I'll have my next report from out there coming up on Monday, maybe even this weekend.